Hello, and welcome to the Taking Care of You podcast. I'm your host, Lesley Cantu. This podcast is all about sharing information and resources for students, faculty, and staff to stay safe and support their well-being. In today's episode, we're exploring undocumented student services. These resources play an important role in supporting undocumented students' academic, emotional, and social well-being. We'll take a closer look at these services available, how they help foster a sense of community, and why they are vital to creating an inclusive campus environment. Whether you're an undocumented student seeking support or simply curious about how these services make a difference, this conversation is one you won't want to miss. Today, our guest is Guillermo Metelin Bock, Undocumented Student Services Lead here at Stanislaus State. Now let's get into the discussion. Hi, Guillermo.
Hello, good morning. Buenos dias. Thank you, Lesley and Frankie, for giving me this opportunity to share my experience and highlight the resources that are available to undocumented students and those of mixed status families here at Stanislaus State.
I think it's a very important topic, especially in this political climate now. But before we get into all of that, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself? How long have you been here at Stanislaus State, and what is your current role?
I'd like to start off with the quote from Martin Luther King Jr., and I quote, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." I've been here at Stanislaus State for about 5 months now. I started back in August of 2024. I came down from Cal State Monterey Bay, where I was running the Undocumented Student Services program there, commonly known as the Dream Center. And it was just a perfect opportunity for me and my family to plant our seed and really invest on an opportunity to thrive. For many of us, the cost of living in Monterey, it's significantly high due to, the economy, how things are. And I wanted to continue doing this line of work because this is something that I'm really passionate about, that I can directly relate to the student experiences. And it was just a perfect opportunity to go to another campus and continue doing the line of work that I'm doing now. A little bit about my background. So I was born in Yuma, Arizona. My parents immigrated to the U.S. from Tamaulipas, Mexico. And, it has been really difficult starting right from a young age, learning about the specific struggles of growing up in a mixed status household and what that entails. When I was growing up in Yuma, Arizona, it was a different culture. It's a different state. And, my family was finding one way or another to make ends meet. To put it in a nutshell, my family decided to move up to California due to the fear of being deported, due to the fear of being detained, being deported. And when we were living in Arizona, we did experience family separation because my mom had to go through the process of what that entails, basically being detained and being put in a detention center. It's been so many years, but yet that experience still reflects on the specific type of work that I do and the experiences of how I connect with my student population. Just talking about my background, when I share those experiences with my students, they can relate and they see how we're all interconnected, right? Just circling back to when we started, my mom decided to move down to California for the same reason. It was either show up to court and face the possibility of being deported back to Mexico, or move down to California and seek sanctuary and give us and my siblings an opportunity to succeed, to have that chance to succeed and be someone in life and be able to contribute to our community. So it worked out. I grew up in Salinas. I attended Hartnell Community College there after I transferred to Cal State Monterey Bay. And that's where I was introduced to the beauty of higher education, working as an academic professional. A lot of the work that I do reflects on the struggles that I had when I was pursuing higher education. I want to be that resource that I needed when I was a student and be able to continue advocating and establishing systems of supports and best practices to increase the retention and graduation rates, not only of undocumented students, but underrepresented minorities, first generation, right? Students of low income, because those are all different identities, intersectionalities that speak to me directly because that's my background. That's exactly why I do what I do. growing up, being the first one to go to college, it's a really challenge. It's something that not having the guidance and the counseling at home makes it extremely difficult because you're navigating that on your own. And we do know that there are, individuals that support more specifically, when you're pursuing, a degree. There are people that are committed to helping and guide, but it's just a matter of identifying those persons, right? And I think that's where there's a big challenge, being able to seek the support and how to ask the right questions. But I think for me, growing up in a mixed-status family and knowing the fact that my parents immigrated from Mexico, a lot of the work and how I connect the programming aspect of what I do is interconnected to that. And it's not only of doing the advocacy part from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, but how is it that you're advocating on your own time to create those systems of support, right? Because we do know that due to the political landscape shift, our students are at a greater risk of either dropping out of college and not continuing their education. So how can we align and position ourselves to continue moving forward in unity and solidarity and continue moving as what we are, a community?
That was beautiful. I'm so sorry about what you had to go through while you were younger, but being able to show resilience during that time, and you could see your true passion when it comes to undocumented student services. Can you tell me a little bit more about what it's like being a first-generation student? I'm one as well, so I hold it with great pride.
I think it tells different components. One of the components is the constant pressure of family, right? The expectation that you have to graduate from college to be able to accomplish the American dream. Being first generation means that you're learning everything firsthand because you're the first one in your family to do so. It can be significantly challenged, right? Like identifying what type of financial aid you're going to be eligible for, how to apply for scholarships, how to apply for student assistant positions, how to do mock interviews, how to build networks of support, how to ensure that you're advocating when they're creating your educational plan and not taking classes that are unnecessary, how to ensure that you're identifying what the right major is for you to ensure that aligns with your ultimate career goals, and also understanding the experiences that since you're the first one in your family to go to college, a lot of the times family members are not going to understand the commitment and the time, the dedication, the effort that is required to succeed and successfully graduate. Being able to take the time to explain that, whether it's to your mom, to your dad, to your brother, to your sister, right? A lot of the time, they still will not understand it because they haven't been through it. And I think that opens a larger, discussion, because we know that there's systems of support on campus, but how are we establishing those systems of support at our own home, within our own family? And I think that is another area that also can be explored. How can we ensure that the engagement with our family members, how are we seeing our family members come to the university besides when you get admitted and you graduate? How can we create that family engagement component to ensure that our family members know and are informed of the commitment that it involves and the sacrifices that you have to make? Because you sometimes might have to miss out on family dinner time or X, Y, and Z, and they might take it personal and might think that you're alienating your family, but a lot of the time is that you're prioritizing your education, and sometimes you just don't have that flexibility, that time, right? So it's a really broad conversation, right, of how being a first generation student and what it entails. But I think that those are some of the components.
Circling back to undocumented student services here at STAN, can you give us an overview of what Undocumented Student Services offers to students at Stan State?
Through Undocumented Student Services, we offer a variety of services. We're based off a 3-tier model that provides support to students academically, professionally, and personally. So one of the main resources that we have is the free immigration legal services that's available to staff, faculty, students, and their family members, and alumni up to 2 years from graduation. We also do a lot of workshops that tap into financial literacy, how to build credit, income with utilizing an I-10, how to navigate grad school as being undocumented, how to generate income through undocumented entrepreneurship. We also touched into understanding and accessing mental health. And we also do referrals. We're well connected with a lot of our on-campus partners like Basic Needs, CAPS, DRS, ASI, Student Housing, College Corps. And we're always working holistically to do student referrals when students need the support. We also do enrichment type activities off campus, meaning that we take students to, like, let's say we take them bowling, we take them to a movie night, we take them hiking. And that's just an opportunity for students to connect in a no pressure atmosphere and build that sense of belonging with other students and other allies that can relate and want to support as well. We also are in the process of launching an emergency grant that's going to be available to our student population. And we expect that to be launched this semester, spring 2025. But that's just another resource that's going to be available as well. And then we are also putting our first annual Undocu Scholar Summit. And that is going to be an opportunity to empower undocumented students, allies, and to serve as a professional development opportunities for those who are interested in learning more of how to support, and for our undocumented students that are going to be graduating, are probably going to be going to grad school, are probably thinking of going into the workforce, or want to generate income through entrepreneurship. That summit is going to be a very powerful event because it is going to be the first summit in the Central Valley. And to have the privilege, the opportunity to host it here in State is going to be remarkable.
I love that there's so many services to help students feel supported, empowered academically and emotionally. Are there any other events that come to mind annually that students can look forward to?
Another resource that we do offer is that we have an Undocu Ally training. We have it both in person and through online. The online version is available to student assistants, staff, and faculty. So they have to be employees because the training is available through SumTotal. And it's available across the 23 CSU campuses. And the training educates staff and faculty on how to better serve and support our undocumented student population. The training that we do have in person upcoming is scheduled for February 19. That's a Thursday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And in that training, it's a more extensive version of the online version where we're going to be having on-campus partners present on the available resources and how staff and faculty can support undocumented students. So, for example, we're going to be having financial aid, residency, admissions. We're also going to be having CAPS and basic needs and student housing as part of the on-campus resources. And we're also going to be having our immigration attorneys that are going to be talking about the immigration policies affecting undocumented students. And we're also planning to have a lived experience session as part of the training, where we'll be having a student panel that will be able to answer questions on more specifically that student experience. So it's going to be a very broad program, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that's going to be for folks that prefer to have in person, for folks that want to learn more. Then that's what the in-person version is going to consist of.
If a student is interested in accessing or learning more about the resources and support in your office, what is the first step that they should take?
I have different ways that students connect with me. One is the most common one, especially after COVID, is through email. Students would typically send an email, be like, hey, Guillermo, I need to connect with you. Do you have some time to meet? And then we just set up a meeting depending on the student's availability. Another way that students connect with me is that they just drop off by the office, and we have student assistants at the front desk. And if I'm available, if I'm not in a meeting, then students connect with me. And if not, they provide them my business card. They leave, they take down the student's name, and then I follow up with the student. Another way that students connect with me is also through referrals from my on-campus partners. Sometimes I have like basic needs case managers that send me a referral, be like, hey, I connected with this student. I think you'll be a right person to support with these areas. And then I get connected through student referrals. We also have something that we're planning for this semester as well, is to have drop-in hours, specifically allocated hours throughout the week where students can just drop in I personally have tried that at other campuses, and it was not proven very successful. So one of the reasons on just having like any like open availability, it gives students just to send an email and be like, you know what, can you meet with me at this time? I sometimes even connect with students after 5 p.m. because that's the time that students, are available because of their work, school commitments. And I offer that flexibility as well. I haven't met with students on the weekends, but if the support is needed, I'm more than happy to connect with students on the weekend as well.
There's a lot of collaboration that goes on. You just mentioned basic needs. Earlier, I heard College Corps. We've heard that College Corps programs has enhanced access to opportunities for students to engage with the community and earn financial support towards their education. Can you tell us more about College Corps and its role in supporting undocumented students?
Yeah, so College Corps, it's a really important and a really important program because that gives an opportunity for students who don't have a working authorization to generate income through grants, through scholarships. So basically what it consists of is that if student is eligible, there's an eligibility criteria that the student has to meet, and there's an application that the student has to submit. But a lot of the time I work with the director of College Corps and their coordinators to do those referrals. But College Corps, it's a great program because for students that are interested in getting more professional development opportunity, that want to also have some type of additional financial aid assistance, it's a great program because students are required to do 450 hours of volunteer service, and they get up to $10,000 as an educational living award. There's an eligibility criteria, and the spots are limited. And one of the benefits is that College Corps not only connects them with the site that aligns with their ultimate career goals, but then there's also a lot of professional development opportunities that College Corps embeds into the program. That's just another great added benefit. I started last semester working at Stanislaus State, and I had a number of spots that needed to be filled by College Corps, and I connected with the director. Shout out to Medium, and we were able to fill the spots within a couple of less than a month. Now we have a waiting list. We have students that are already interested in being part of the cohort for the 2025-2026 academic school year. So now we're working to expand, the capacity. How can we support more of those students that are interested in College Corps, right? But due to its capacity, no more students can be admitted into the program. But the benefit of having another program that's embedded in College Corps is the DSIG program. So the DSIG program is the Dreamer Assertive Incentive Grant Program. And that's a program that students can get up to $4,500 for completing 300 hours of service. So it's 150 hours per semester. And then there's also an eligibility criteria. And then they also have to be paired at a site. But that's another program that students can also be part of if they're not able to get admitted into College Corps. DSIG, it's great because if a student decides to only do the program for one semester and do 150 hours, then they get half. They get $2,250, and then it's up to the student's discretion if they want to continue for the next semester. I actually have one student that it's our student liaison. She's part of the DSIG program and is now our student liaison in Stockton. So having representation in our Stockton campus is important, but it's part through the DSIG program, and that's how it was able to come to life.
I feel like there's questions about if undocumented student services have access to like the Student Health Center or CAPS. Are undocumented students able to access those resources on campus as well?
Yes, they are able to access those resources. And like I mentioned, a lot of the time, students go directly to access those resources, or sometimes they connect with me and I do a warm handoff, which is really important to build that trust, build that connection. And something that I do is that if I have the time and time permits, I walk students over, right? Like if they have questions about their financial aid, I will walk them over to financial aid. If they are interested in learning more about basic needs and the hub, I'll walk them over and introduce them to a staff member or a student assistant. But yes, undocumented students can access all of the resources that other students access regardless of their immigration status.
Even on-campus jobs?
For on-campus jobs, they have to have a working authorization. So for example, the students who do have working authorizations are those students who are documented or are part of other type of immigration relief options. So if they have a working authorization, then they can apply to be student assistants, but not through federal work study, because federal work studies undocumented students are ineligible for. Now, if a student does not have a working authorization, then they would not be eligible to apply for student assistance positions, because then they'll have to go through like a E-Verify. And since they don't have the Social Security, they don't have the working authorization, then they wouldn't be able to move forward with that option. But circling back to like College Corps and DSIC, that's a great alternative program because they don't have to go through a working authorization process.
There's a lot of focus about resources for current students, but what about life after graduation? What can undocumented students do after they graduate? Are there resources or support systems in place to help them transition into their careers or future education?
That's another very broad conversation. The struggle and the support is needed. That's a fact. Being able to get a job after college and not having a working authorization is extremely difficult. And that's just the reality. Many of the students, after they graduate, they want to get that return on investment. They have, committed time, money, a lot of resources to graduate. And now they want to get that return of investment. The difficult part is that after they graduate, if they're not documented and they don't qualify for another type of immigration relief, then that's where it's difficult, because I have students that are liberal studies that have graduated with credentials, master's degrees in education, and they can't get hired by local school districts because they can't go through E-Verify. They don't have a Social Security. They don't have a working authorization. And I'm glad that you mentioned, what is the support after college, right? And the reality is that the support is limited. The support is limited because there's a lot of nonprofit organizations like Immigrants Risings that have a lot of resources on their websites that put webinars on entrepreneurship, but there's no real support on being able to connect with students one-on-one and establishing, let's say, like a business plan. Perhaps they want to become entrepreneurs. Perhaps they want to become small business owners. Perhaps they want to become independent contractors. And who's that person that's providing business advice, right? We Undocumented Student Services cannot offer that service. But what we could do is that we can connect students with other organizations that might be able to offer those services. So the support after college is limited. I have proposed several initiatives on how to better serve and support our undocumented students after college, because the support is here. California is the leading state for providing support not only to undocumented students, but to the undocumented community in general. But what about the support after they graduate, right? And that's a key component at reaffirming our commitment to student success. And that's an area that has to be expanded on. And that's an area that we need more support. We're working with, limited resources. We're looking forward to increasing our capacity. But a lot of the support has to be spearheaded by the chancellor's office, right? It is important and instrumental that we have the free immigration legal services, because it's really important, specifically now with the political landscape shift. But now we need other type of attorneys, like business attorneys, that can connect with our students and set up business plans on how they can get that return of investment to be able to have financial stability. A lot of our students are first generation professionals, and their family is depending on them. That's part of the narrative of the American dream. The American dream is you graduate, you go to college, and then you become successful. But a lot of the times, the American dream does not apply to everyone, because there's people that are more privileged than others, and there's other people that don't have that same opportunities. So we need to start implementing initiatives that can support our undocumented students after they graduate. And Undocumented Student Services is working with other nonprofit organizations and other directors, coordinators of other dream centers to provide a holistic support, even if it's not being spearheaded from the top to the bottom. But the reality is that as of right now, it's limited. I have students that have graduated and they connect with me, and and they're working general labor. They're working under their table. They're working agriculture. They're working in housekeeping. They're working in restaurants and construction. And it's really challenging because, when you do this line of work, you're limited on the type of impact that you can make because a lot has to do with legislative efforts. And it's hard, right? When you connect with the student and they come to me and they're like, Guillermo, I graduated, but I can't get a job. What can I do, right? And I connect them, right? Like maybe become an entrepreneur, right? But that's still not financial stability. It's not the same as being able to get hired and have a salary, right? So that's the real challenge there. That's the real challenge. And I always, when I connect with students, I tell them, when you connect with your advisor, talk about cultural responsive academic advising, because college is important, but sometimes it doesn't apply to everyone. It's specifically something that aligns with their career goals. Like I have students that want to start small businesses, and they often don't explore the idea of like trade programs. And I tell students, right, I'm not here to sell education. I'm here to set you up for success and empower you to explore what are the options that are going to work best for you and for your career goals. Students really put their mind to work and be like, okay, let me start looking at this, right? Maybe a trade program. Maybe I graduate with my bachelor's degree and then I do a trade program, right? And then that will give me the opportunity to become a business owner and offer like independent contracting services or just do entrepreneurship. It's a large conversation, but the support after college is limited, unfortunately.
You talked a little bit about initiatives. Are there any specific initiatives, even if it's one or two, that could help them find jobs or internships, maybe even with College Corps?
Part of the work that we're doing now is that we're connecting with local business owners, more specifically with those that can relate to our student body. And we are connecting with them because we're exploring the idea of how can those local business owners support our student population. They might have job opportunities. We also part of the Undocumented Scholar Summit is that we're going to be having a designated session on undocumented entrepreneurship. And that session is going to be specifically targeted to guide students on how to identify potential job opportunities and how to be able to navigate the challenge of not having a working authorization to generate income. But part of College Corps is that a lot of our students are gaining that professional development opportunities. They're building connections, and they're going to be instrumental when they need to get those letter of recommendations, right? When they need to, connect with other people that might open them up a door of opportunities. So it's all interconnected, but part of the initiatives are tied to the work that we're currently doing as well.
With the implications of the policy changes with the new administration, what changes should students expect?
Many of the students that I've connected with applied for DACA, and their applications have just been in limbo mode because they have not been processed because there's, the program has been halted. Many of the students that I've connected with had faith that the program was going to begin processing applications, therefore granting them DACA status and having the benefits that come with it, such as the protection from deportation, having a working authorization, having a Social Security. Now, knowing of the political landscape shift in the new administration that we have, there has been conversations and, this has been, broadcasted on how our new president-elect plans to handle the DACA program. And students now have faith because, the president-elect did do an interview where the president-elect shared that the president wants the Dreamers and wants to work with Congress, both with Democrats and Republicans, to identify a solution. So that's already giving faith to students because many of the students, when they, found out who was elected for office, many of them felt that faith was lost. Nothing is going to get done now. But now that we have that information that was shared to the general public, now students have faith, right? And it's students giving the president-elect the benefit of the doubt. We're here to contribute to the country. We're here to get degrees and really many of them are public servants. So when we talk about immigration law and how it's rapidly changing, The most important conversation is DACA. What is going to be the future of DACA? DACA was always just a Band-Aid. It was never a permanent solution, and it wasn't a pathway to becoming a permanent resident, becoming a U.S. citizen.
Sorry, can you elaborate on what DACA is?
So DACA is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and it basically provides temporary protection from deportation, and it also provides a working authorization and a Social Security for those who qualify for DACA.
Are DACA and the Dreamers Act the same thing?
Dreamers are commonly referred to DACA recipients because of the childhood arrival that many of them arrived here to the U.S. when they were children. Some others were babies. So a lot of the time, the term dreamer has been used for those that arrived to the U.S. as children and also were part of the U.S. educational system, meaning that they went through K through 12. But we also have non-traditional students that arrived to the U.S. at a later age. And those are our traditional students that do not meet DACA eligibility requirements and therefore are not eligible for other type of immigration relief, more specifically to DACA.
With the executive order that Trump signed, there's a lot of fear around deportation. I know students are probably feeling it, faculty, staff. Has anyone come to you, or what advice would you give?
Yeah, we have received a surge of support needed from students. We have received many emails. We've been bombarded with emails, to put it in simple terms, of students, expressing their concerns. We had a student, that reached out that couldn't even celebrate her birthday because of the uncertainty, the anxiety, the fear of being detained, the fear of being deported, the fear of family separation. And when we talk about the president-elect and his administration and the promise of mass deportation, our students have so much fear, and we know that it's already affecting their social and emotional well-being. Many of the students have already, connected with different resources and are creating family preparedness plans in a case of potential deportation. But something that we also been doing is that we've been informing our students of their constitutional rights, regardless of their immigration status. So something that we've done is that we have red cards in our office that have been vetted by immigration attorneys, more specifically ILRC. And those red cards inform students, family members, the people of their constitutional rights, regardless of their immigration status. We made those cards more accessible because we distributed them across campus in different departments. And we send out an email to students informing them where they can find those red cards that are available not only in English and Espanol, but also in other languages as well. But circling back to the question, when I've connected with students say, what am I going to do? What if I get deported? What if my family gets deported? How is the university going to position itself to continue to support me? And those are conversations that we're already having with campus leadership. Our president has been extremely supportive. She has already expressed that she stands and supports and is in solidarity, and we're going to be moving forward as a community in unity, strength, and resilience. And when I connect with students, I tell students, we got to start thinking ahead, right? And part of it is creating those family preparedness plan, sharing those resources with family members of what their constitutional rights are, knowing that they have free immigration legal services, and if they need the support will be there. Letting them know that there's, other nonprofit organizations that are also ready to support when the support is needed. And then also connecting them with our different campus partners, such as CAPS. I connected with the director of CAPS, Cynthia. We will be meeting on Friday to discuss an initiative that will basically entail having come talk conversations that are going to be hosted in the Word Cross Cultural Center, where our Undocumented Student Services office is at. And basically, the Let's Talk conversations are going to be an opportunity for students to just come and talk with the counselor. That's what we're calling it, Let's Talk conversations. And students will get an opportunity to connect with counselors to ensure that they're having access to mental health resources, because we know that the anxiety, the fear, some students might be already going through symptoms of depression. And we want to ensure that our students succeed. We want to ensure that our students can focus on their studies and focus on graduating. So a lot of the work that is currently being done is focused on around that area.
We talked a little bit about the DACA program, but what about funding and support for DEI initiatives, not only for this semester, but within the next 4 years?
So we're going to continue moving forward. So when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we just established an emergency fund. What the emergency fund entails is that now we have a fund where we can work with donors who want to donate, who want to support our student population. We also established a Undocumented Scholars Enhancement Fund. And that fund is going to be more specifically tailored to support the operational needs of the program of Undocumented Student Services to continue offering those programs, those services that tap into equity and inclusion, meaning that we know the equity gaps. We have identified what the equity gaps are for undocumented students. If as an institution, we want to be more inclusive, we need to start closing those equity gaps. And in order to do so, a lot of it has to do with working with limited resources, working with a limited capacity. But now that we have established that Undocumented Scholars Enhancement Fund, we will be able to work with donors that are willing to donate to provide gifts to our program to increase the services that we offer and continue moving forward with offering services and programs that specifically tap into diversity, equity, and inclusion.
There is another executive order ordering federal DEI staff to be put on leave. Will that affect anyone here?
So that executive order will not affect none of our undocumented student services staff because we are state employees for the state of California. Now, a lot of the campus partners that we do work with are also state employees for the state of California, and therefore that executive order will not impact us directly.
If an undocumented student, faculty, or staff were to come into contact with ICE, what should they do and how should they prepare?
It depends the type of interaction. If it's an interaction where ICE officers are coming to their home, then they have to exercise their constitutional rights, which includes do not open the door if an immigration agent is knocking on the door. Do not answer any questions from immigration agent if they try to talk to you. You have the right to remain silent. Do not sign anything without first speaking to a immigration lawyer. You have the right to speak with the lawyer. If you are outside your home, ask the agent if you are free to leave. And if they say yes, then you leave calmly. We provided red cards to our students and for them to share with family members. So the one side shares what I just shared now, and then the other side basically tells the immigration officer, I do not wish to speak with you, answer any questions, or sign or hand any documents based on my Fifth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution. I do not give you permission to enter my home based on my Fourth Amendment right under the United States Constitution unless you have a warrant to enter signed by a judge with my name on it that you would slide, that the immigration agent will slide under the door. Basically, what that also informs is that you do not give permission to search any of the belongings based on the Fourth Amendment rights, and that the student, the family member, the person chooses to exercise their constitutional rights regardless of their immigration status.
There is a fear about ICE agents coming onto campus or churches. Can you touch on that topic?
We're working, like I mentioned earlier, we're working with our campus leadership to develop those contingency plans and protocols and procedures. And therefore, that information is going to be shared with our campus community through an email that's going to be shared soon by our president's office. It's going to highlight the different resources that are available not only on campus, but also off campus, like ILD, Immigrant Legal Defense, that provides free immigration representation in a case when needed. So circling back to your question, if there was to be any ICE presence on campus, we are going to have the infrastructure to respond and to investigate the legality of the matter to ensure that our students, staff, and faculty feel safe.
I think it's really important to share that there are allies here on campus, that students aren't alone. Students, faculty, and staff are not alone. If you are not an undocumented student, How can members of the campus community become allies to support undocumented students on campus?
The first step would be to take the Undocumented Ally training, which is upcoming on February 20th, because that's going to provide them with the educational content on how to better serve and support undocumented students. Now, part of the ways that undocumented allies can support is by, if they're willing to donate their time, maybe they want to volunteer. Another way that undocumented allies can help is by speaking up. If you notice discrimination, harassment, another way that undocumented allies can help is to speak up. If they do notice discrimination, harassment, racism on campus here at Stan State, report it. You see something, say something, right? And that's another way that undocumented allies can also support. Another way they can support is by also supporting legislative efforts in favor of the undocumented community. We know that undocumented people cannot vote. But there's ways that our undocumented allies can support, such as writing letters to their politicians to support legislative efforts that directly impact not only undocumented students, but the undocumented community. Another way that undocumented allies can support is by building a coalition. Let's build a coalition among our Stan State community where we can come together and delve more deeper into those areas of how can we support our students. We also have our emergency fund and our enhancement fund. If you want to support the success of undocumented students, contribute to our fund because those funds directly go to the student population that I would say is most in need given our political climate. And if you want to help more, contact the Undocumented Student Services Lead. Contact me, Guillermo, directly through email. Stop by office, introduce yourself, and say, I want to help. How can I help? And I will point you to the right direction. But any support, whether it's big or small, would be very much appreciated because we have really interesting times ahead of us, and we are limited in capacity in what we can do and the services that we can offer.
What has it been like having the support of President Britt Rios-Ellis?
It's been remarkable. I have worked at many institutions, and I have never had a president that will walk over to my office at 7 p.m. late in the evening and say, Guillermo, I'm here for you. Anything that you need, here's my cell phone number, whether it's in the PM and the AM, feel free to contact me because this is my line and this is the student population that we are going to ensure we prioritize to ensure they can succeed here at Stan State. Whatever it is that you need, let's work together to ensure that we're spearheading these initiatives here at Stan State in the Central Valley to ensure that we can enhance our institution's reputation as a leader in diversity and inclusion and equity. So part of the goal is that President Britt, I have invited her to several of the events that are being put together by Undocumented Student Services. One is our Undocumented Ally training that, although she's traveling out of state, I believe, the president is still going to commit to present and do some welcoming remarks to our folks that are attending the Undocumented Ally training. A heartfelt message of support, thanking them for taking that pledge of allyship. That to me speaks a lot due to the time constraints. She's making time to contribute to the program. President Britt will also be part of the Undocu Scholar Summit and will be providing welcoming remarks as well. Those two events are going to be instrumental as we move forward through this semester. But then talking about just the 5 months that I've been here, circling back to like the Undocu Day of Action that I had back in October, our president put out a message of support, highlighting the event and doing a call for action for our undocumented allies and how to come and support undocumented student services. During the several years that I have been doing this line of work supporting undocumented students, I have never had a president that will do a video recording and put herself in front of a camera and stand in solidarity with our undocumented student population. And therefore, all I can say is that President Britt has been remarkable. Kudos to all the support that I've been receiving. And this is the type of president that we need to spearhead these initiatives, the representation system-wide is going to be crucial as we implement more systems of support. And to President Britt and her husband, Enrique, thank you for all of the support that you provide. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to establish that partnership and allowing me to come to your house and introduce myself to many of our stakeholders that are going to be instrumental to ensuring that we continue doing the work that we do here at Stan State.
What advice would you give to current or prospective undocumented students who may be feeling overwhelmed or unsure about their next steps?
La unión hace la fuerza. And basically what that entails is that unity makes the strength. We're going to be continue moving as one, como una comunidad. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. The community united is never going to be defeated. Familias juntas jamás divididas. Families together, never divided. We are going to continue moving with resilience, with courage, with determination. We're going to keep that fire going. And I have connected with students that have said, we are not going to go back to the shadows. We're going to continue moving out of the shadows because we want to inspire other undocumented individuals to pursue their dreams, to continue believing in the American dream, because we're here to stay and we're going to continue to thrive. And undocumented students are determined to succeed, and no wall is too high, and we will be moving forward in unity as one.
Moving forward, what are your future goals for the Undocumented Student Services Program at Stan State?
So several of the goals for the Undocumented Student Services Program at Stan State is to increase the program's capacity. We want to offer more services to directly contribute to the success of the students, meaning that we want to offer more events, we want to offer more programs, we want to offer more activities. We also want to do research opportunities for our students. We have students that, due to their immigration status, can't participate in the McNair program because it's federally funded. So what we're trying to do is that we want to create alternative opportunities to allow students to explore the beauty of undergrad research, because that will give them an opportunity to continue building their CV and pursue PhD programs, for example. We also want to do graduate school visits. We want to allow our students to explore visiting different institutions and empower them to continue graduate programs as well. Perhaps here at Stan State, but maybe at other institutions as well, where it aligns more with their ultimate career goals. We also want to continue building unity and coalition with our campus partners here at Stan State. What we would like to do as well is to work with our advisors to create culturally responsive academic advising and ensure that we're setting up our students for success. We also want to create more financial aid opportunities for undocumented students. We know that some students might not be able to participate in College Corps or DSIG due to the eligibility criteria. So what we want to establish is other type of programs that can provide more financial aid assistance to our students, specifically those that are not documented and do not have a working authorization. Once we move forward with those initiatives, we also want to explore the idea of how can we strategically approach student engagement. We want to have more students visit our Warrior Cross Cultural Center. We want to give them an opportunity to connect with Guillermo, connect with our student assistants, connect with our executive director, Carolina Alfaro. And part of the goal is, how can we increase that student engagement? We also want to continue building on initiatives that were already implemented, right, through the program. So an initiative that we're also working on is that we're developing a centralized website for the DSIG program to make it more accessible in collaboration with financial aid. Those are some of the initiatives, the goals in a nutshell. But we also want to ensure that we have the capacity to provide all these services, and that would be the staff capacity and the space. If we're increasing the services that we're offering, then that means that we might need a larger space, we might need more staff, and we might need more student assistants. So then once we increase the services that we offer, then we can talk about what is the long-term goal for undocumented student services here at Stan State.
Thank you, Guillermo, for sharing your expertise and the resources students have from Undocumented Student Services. I would like to end the podcast with just a simple question. What is something that you like to do personally to take care of yourself?
Yeah, so something that I like doing on my personal time is that I enjoy working out. I was doing powerlifting last year and have shied away from it due to the time constraints with job and school. When I have time, I like to hit the gym. I like to go on hikes. I like going outdoors. I also am a car enthusiast, so I have a Camaro and I like working on it in my garage and putting aftermarket parts. I also like spending time with my family, traveling, visiting new places, trying new foods, visiting new restaurants. And that's how I take care of myself. But due to time constraints and, how limited we are, I am trying to do my best to look after myself to ensure that we take care of the caregiver. So we are going to be implementing more ways of how I can support myself. And I say we because I feel that, it's a combination, working with my family because they support what I do. When I need to talk to them, my family's there for me. And those are some of the ways that I'm looking after myself and also, not looking a lot of the stuff that's going on in social media. So, there's a lot of good and bad stuff, mainly bad stuff on social media now. So just not doing too much of the social media now and focusing more on, just going outdoors and hiking and doing more of the workouts and
taking care of you.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you for everything that you do here on campus for our students, faculty, and staff. It does not go unnoticed.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share my experiences in this platform.
Thank you again, Guillermo. If you ever want to reach out to him directly, visit their website, csustan.edu/undocumented student services. We'll be sure to add a link in the episode description. You can listen to this episode and past episodes at csustan.edu/podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to subscribe and follow to be notified of any new episodes. Stay safe, warriors, and take care.